Hello, you guys. It is Friday, and Rebecca and I are back with our Amplified Life for one of those wonderful conversations that started out all about empowerment. But as we started talking today, both of us were like, oh, so let me tell you what our topic is today. It is how to find that inner Wonder Woman. That felt a little heavy for me, to be honest. So we may take a twist and a turn and a dive, but we really want to kind of dive into what gives us that inner strength. How do we overcome our hardships, our trials? How do we keep moving? And I don't know about you guys, but the world is feeling heavier and heavier. And I saw this meme the other day that said, I'm tired of living in like earth-shattering moments or something. And I really feel like the last couple of years we have lived in and created the history books. So how do we find that inner peace? How do we keep going? And that is what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, I think so. I'm so excited to see the comments and feedback from everybody watching this and just kind of see what everyone else does to recapture their mojo, kind of get back in the groove, because I totally agree, Amy. I'm very tired of hearing this is unprecedented and, you know, all of these things that are just new upon new upon new. And it just seems like one challenge after another. And sometimes when we're getting accosted from all sides, it just gets really heavy. So I think that you and I are really at the same space. And so this is such a serendipitous opportunity because we can brainstorm and visit and coach and love on each other in real time. And our hope and prayer is that this also is a benefit to everyone watching, and know that you guys definitely, your feedback and just your grace and your input always helps us as well. So this is very much a two-way street.
Well, yeah, and I don't want it to be all doom and gloom, because in reality, if you take away the big picture and just try to live in the day, there's a lot of joy to be found out there. And so I think it's just going to be a little mix of both. And I think that's life, you know, like there is going to be a day that just kind of hits you. And then there's going to be a day where you are laughing and crying and, you know, all the things. So yeah, I didn't want to take this conversation into a doom and gloom, but reality is there are days that are harder than the next. So I thought, since this was sort of your topic of choice, I'm putting you on the spot. One thing that I know helps us both is a lot of education in different aspects, whether it's podcasts you love, books you love, environments to be in. So I thought maybe we could start out just talking about that. How do you kind of get out of your head of the craziness and refocus? Is it through a podcast? Is it a favorite book? And maybe there's a little bit of both, but do you want to kind of take this one and talk about a few things that you have loved?
Yeah, I think that the huge thing, and I hope the takeaway from today is that even when we're kind of going through the quagmire and it feels heavy, how quickly we pivot out of that is important. And so we're not saying don't feel all the things, but don't live in that space for a long time. So for me, the biggest way for me to get snapped out of a huge funk is to soak up some sunshine. And I am very blessed with it being going to be 60 degrees today in Kansas, and I cannot wait. But truly, soak up some sunshine and then get some music on, because those two things, being outside in the sun, just heals me from the outside and the inside at the same time. And then music has just always been something that I turn to. And it doesn't matter if I have a very eclectic music taste. And so I listen to almost everything, but it may be some praise and worship music. It may be some AC/DC to get my house clean. It may be some Beach Boys, maybe some country, some good old Red Dirt. I just love it all, and it speaks to me differently depending on what I'm needing in that moment. How about you, Amy?
Oh, well, you spoke to my heart so much. And the funny thing is, as you know how stupid I am. So every time I wake up and I drive Breely to school, we have 10 minutes. And she and I both are very strong emotional people. And so the mornings, you just never know. And I always end up singing these stupid things to her to try and get her in a good mood. And so as you were talking, help is on the way, dear, help is on the way. Like Mrs. Doubtfire just came to me. And so I think a lot of it is just allowing myself to be silly as well. So you've got your music and you've got your things, but I love a good, funny quote. I love a funny joke. And I was also thinking as you were screaming, like, yes, 60 degrees. Well, it's going to warm up in Utah as well. And I just kept thinking, God must be just as discombobulated as we are in the world because he keeps sneezing this crazy weather. So I think having a sense of humor isn't always easy, but I think sometimes we can actually be intentional about that as well. And so I love my mornings with Breely because half the time she's ornery or too tired, and bless her heart, it is like really early. Our school district, even the little 5-year-olds have to be on the bus by 7:05, and they start with the high school kids. So they just have a really early morning. And I'm like you, I love anything that kind of can get me out of the funk. I tend to listen to sort of a spiritual or an uplifting podcast on my way home from dropping her off. And driving her to school is very intentional for me this year, rather than putting her on the bus. I never got to do that with my boys. And it's a benefit to me more than her, probably. So I'd say definitely, it's been so cold, I haven't wanted to be outside, but I will find myself drinking a hot drink and just sitting at my back window to catch the sun and to warm my toes. So I think there's all sorts of ways that we can pull the outside in if we're just not in the mood, or if it just feels too hard. I still think that is a really important part of my day. And so,
You and I, real quick, are both animal people too. And so our dogs give us immense amount of joy. Sometimes when they're whining and being silly, not so much, but
I am really happy today because Garrett took my dogs. So yes, Sandy is the only one here. She got left. And so she's in dog depression. So she's not going to make a peep, but yeah, for sure. Just, you know what it is about the animals? They force you to get outside.
And they just look at you with those big, kind, loving eyes. And how can you not just sink into that and really embrace it? I love my dogs so much.
And I have to remind Breely, she'll come to give me a hug, and she has her cat in her bedroom, and she's the only one, like the cat doesn't come out of her bedroom, and she'll come to give me a hug. And I'm like, whoa, I love you, but I don't want your cat on me right now. Like, go lint roll and then come back. Because she often is the one right on the floor in the crates with the dog. So she takes that to a whole nother level for me. Yeah. But yeah, that
was me growing up. That was me. So
oh, it was totally me. But back then I didn't care what my clothes looked like either. If I'm going somewhere, I don't want to wear my animals. But yeah. So speaking of animals, I think that's a really good transition, because we really are talking about empowerment, making yourself feel good. Animals can give you intention. So I think this also pulls movement into this conversation, because I don't know about you, but if I'm not doing something with myself, it is really easy to do nothing. I think sometimes when we go, 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 we're kind of almost in survival mode and then we crash. I mean, that's my experience. So I do much better on a well-spaced calendar, knowing that I have some downtime planned out. Because when I go, 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 and then I have a day of nothing, it literally turns into a day of nothing. And so one of my things lately is just to make sure I'm getting some sort of movement in. If you are on my Instagram page, if you guys follow that, you'll notice that I posted about the old lady injury tennis elbow that I've been doctoring since December. And that seems stupid, but when it's your dominant hand and it's your grip and you can't do anything, like just to even pick up my garment rack, it's like I would have made fun of myself 10 years ago. It's painful. And so I've been trying to figure out how can I get movement in my day without it being my go-to, like strength training or push-ups or anything like that is causing inflammation in my elbow. So for me, I'm really excited to go on a hike this weekend with my dogs. What about you? How are you getting your movement? And does that help your head?
Oh, big time. So it's like not physical, mental. It's physical therapy too, but mental therapy 100%. And if you can grab your dogs, grab your girlfriend, just do it with someone or an animal and get out there, because I feel like a lot of times, and I know for myself, when I am really not well mentally, then that affects me physically and I want to shut down, like Amy was talking about. I don't want to shower, I don't want to put myself together, I don't want to do anything. And just knowing that I have that solid commitment to go and walk with a friend and get out and move, even if the weather is not so fantastic, it helps. And I think the getting started part is the hardest part, because you've just got to gain some momentum. It's like you're pushing a big ball up or boulder up a hill, and then it takes a bunch to get it going. But then once you get the momentum and it becomes just a habit, really, then it becomes easy. And it definitely breaks those, the mental kind of stress that we can all be under at different times. And I think just get started.
Well, and you're really good about walking with your neighbor every week. And, I think sometimes I've said this before, women need women. We just have empathy for women and we have that ear. So, feeling like you're being heard on levels that maybe you wouldn't normally feel from your children or, even from your dogs. Sometimes they're like, oh, I don't want to hear what you have to say, but I think having somebody that you can bounce ideas off of is really healthy for the mind as well.
Yeah. And being willing to meet yourself where you're at, because I will say that for a long time, so I used to walk and run here at home around our section, and that was fantastic. Well, I can't physically do that anymore. And so for the longest time, I had this loop going in my brain. Well, I can't do what I did, so I can't do it. And finally, I kind of got worked through that and realized, well, let's try flat, hard surfaces and see how my body responds to that. And I may not be able to walk as fast and as long as stride as I used to, but just something is more powerful than doing nothing. And so just because you can't do it at 100% of what you used to do, don't let yourself off the hook to not do anything. I think it's important to just kind of start where you are and know that it may not be pretty and it may not feel great, but by doing that and by honoring yourself, you're going to gain more confidence, and you're also just going to be able to embrace that inner Wonder Woman.
Well, and as you're talking about kind of putting one foot in front of the other, gaining momentum. And one thing that has been huge for me, I'm going to bring in a little bit of spirituality here because that's where the conversation took my head. But yesterday in church, we were talking about a discussion about being 1% better was the title of the sermon or talk that we were discussing. And what I loved about the person that led the discussion is she said, we're going to remove the 1% better, and we're going to say, let's lean 1% more into the Lord. And what I loved about that is when you're in the depths of the hard, when you're having a hard time moving, or when you're having a hard time getting out, it doesn't take, I think sometimes we think, okay, I have to do this whole agenda to be better, right? And so if we can just focus our lives 1% more towards the Lord and give 1% more of our heart to him and let him carry that for us, that just gives me a bit of calm. And whether it is, starting to listen to a spiritual podcast or a spiritual song, or going on a walk in silence, that might be that 1% that the day before we listened to, I don't know, a different kind of podcast or a song that maybe didn't uplift us or something. So I really loved that concept of giving 1% to the Lord more than I did yesterday. And
that is powerful.
Yeah. And it just, I think because this world feels so heavy already, we already feel buried. Like we already feel like, how can I do more? How can I, our task list sometimes is just too much. And so I have found myself also pulling away, creating some quiet space. So between learning to direct some of my heart or more, that 1% more of my heart to the Lord, I'm also trying to create some silence and some quiet boundaries. It might just be a bath with some Epsom salts. And I'm not normally a bath person, but I have found, I just tell my family, you know what, excuse me for an hour. And I go run the tub and they can't come in the door. It's locked, or they know that I'm in the tub. And that's been another 1% that I'm giving to myself. I think often the word self-care also feels like a lot, like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to go get a back massage, or I can't afford to have a real pedicure or a manicure. But for me, self-care really is just hearing and feeling and being in tune to my body, being in tune to my environment, knowing when to shut the news off, knowing when I have to walk away. And a lot of that is coming from that extra 1% that I am giving to that healthy space.
Yeah. And it's creating margin in your life. That 1% that you're talking about is just, it's a fantastic way to just give things a litmus test on, is this of value? And is it worth me piling upon piling things on top of me, and then getting kind of down and overwhelmed? Because, you and I have both had a few weeks of solid running. And if we don't mentally build margin into our life, not only on our calendars, but just in our thought processes, then that's when things kind of catch up and it gets not so pretty.
One last thought. I thought it might be a good time. I know at the first of the year, and they can go back and watch the video, but we did a video on setting goals and intention, and we both picked words. And I wanted to kind of check in on you. And I think it's important. We're now into February. We're just about to a new quarter. March will end the quarter of this year. And I think it's really good to take a pause and go back and reflect and see how, if your word is still resonating with you, what you've done to use that word with intention. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Not at all. So my word of this year is wholeness, and that encompasses many of the things. When I started thinking, initially as I was thinking about what my focus needed to be this year, it was kind of in the physical realm, but then I wanted to expand upon that and just really embrace the entire picture. And so for me, wholeness is that in all areas. And some different ways that I am doing that is just being very focused and scheduling my physical therapy on my calendar. So I have that date with myself. So that's kind of on the body side of things, but then also having some reading time. I've been one that is terrible about being on my phone at night, and I've just been picking up a book instead, and reading is something that I absolutely love. And so that just kind of resets. And sometimes they're books that I'm learning from. Sometimes they're just fun novels that I'm enjoying some escapism with. And I think that it's important to not kind of, for so many years, all I read was personal growth books, business books, just the things that I needed to learn. And sometimes we get so busy learning things that we don't implement those things. So I'm kind of in the wholeness, in honoring that word, embracing the fact that I already have a lot of knowledge. So let's just implement it, right?
Well, I also think you have to give yourself permission to escape into the world that books can create. I mean, that's why we love a good movie, right? Most of the really good ones come from a book that was very entertaining to read. And
Yeah.
so I'm with you. I think sometimes when we are in those hard depths, we think, okay, I got to do more. I got to learn more. What am I doing wrong? Why do I not feel balanced? And we only focus on what am I doing wrong and how do I get out of it, rather than just allowing ourselves that time to feel joy. And just like, it's okay to feel down sometimes. Those are valid feelings that need to be heard and validated, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Amy. Well, I know what your word is, but for anybody that didn't watch our video when we talked about this, we'll leave the link in the description so you can go back. It was a fun discussion, but share with us.
well, my word, thanks to you, because it actually came to us live as we were talking about this. I had been kind of sitting on a few different things and nothing really was feeling right. Everything felt close to it. I was thinking of peace and different things, but I was like, I've used the word grace before. And Rebecca was like, well, harmony sounds really nice for you. And oh my gosh, it was just like, oh, the music started to play. And interestingly enough, it actually is a word that's really coming into fruition into my life. Not to go deep into the details, but the past 6 months have been heavy. My son moved out. There's been a lot of arguments in my home. It really has not been a good place to be. I think sometimes even our families feel that, and then we're just in this turbine, this wind tunnel of, we think it's going to settle down and the storm slows and then the tornado picks back up. That's how my life has felt for 6 months. And so truly my desire was just to have some harmony in our lives. I wanted everyone to get along. My kids are getting older. And I will tell you that I have that word posted on my office door. So it's the first thing I see when my door is open. It's the first thing I see when I come in my office. And I've also had that word in the back of my mind through my 1% closer to the Lord, through different things. Breely and I have also started doing our little 5-minute gratitude journal at night. So we talk about 3 good things that have happened during the day, which they say energy goes where focus flows. Energy flows where focus goes. I always say it backwards. And I really feel like all the intention that I've put towards doing better, even if it's that 1%, is starting to create that harmony and balance. And I'm in a better place today than I've probably been in 6 months, because I've just been giving myself that time and space to feel all the feelings. And I think that's kind of what harmony is. It's not, if you think about music, there can be some really loud, hard beats and strums to it, and those represent the hard days. And then there's the little light flutters of the light notes that you think of birds chirping, and those are the light days. But then the storm comes in and the music comes together, and harmony is all of it together. And that's what I've decided. There's never going to be good days all the time, and there's never going to be bad days. We can determine how long our bad days last. Like you said, beginning this conversation, we're going to have them, but how long do we stay in them? And so that word has really helped me realize that the music has to keep playing. Life has to keep going. I'm in charge of shutting off the news. Like you said, you're in charge of taking your phone and putting it away at night. We still get to choose. We can't always, have a choice in what hits us, but we get to choose our reaction. And sometimes our reaction may be delayed, and with good reason. I'm also learning one thing about myself, that when the emotions come, when the wave of emotions come into me, I have to just kind of go take a bath, right? I have to let them come. I've been very reactionary, and I'm a big girl, and I can take accountability for the things I've done wrong to keep that storm spinning. And I am learning that I have to just sit back and kind of observe more and talk less and listen more, and the storm will pass. And so all the reading and all the boundaries, everything that I've read over the years, as you said, I don't know that I had the capacity to put it to work. I've read, I've researched, I've done it all. But I'm focusing on the capacity. I'm focusing on giving myself that space to mess up and to pick up, and to, I guess I'm also forgiving myself for a lot of the things that I didn't do well. And I'm just asking the Lord to help my kids give me grace. And there's a lot of forgiveness in the word harmony. And so it feels pretty good to be in a better place, though.
Well, I can't think of any better or more powerful words of wisdom for us to wrap up this conversation on, Amy. I hear and I feel all of that. And I think it's so powerful when we just kind of take a step back and we can acknowledge where we've been and where we are, and still dream about what is to come in just kind of a hopeless, optimistic light. There's something to be said for that. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed our conversation today. And we really can't wait to hear how you kind of embrace your inner Wonder Woman, your inner confidence, whatever that means to you, how you get it back when you lose it momentarily or for a season. And we love to learn from you. As always, we are here every Friday for you on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram at Street Style by Amy is Amy, and at I'm Styled by R is myself. Those links will be in the description as well. And please go back and watch our videos and tell us what you would love to hear us talk about and show, because we show up and talk style and trends and dressing your shape and all the things. And we've just expanded this year into some of these other discussions that really seem to be resonating as well. So as always, thank you for being here and have a blessed day. will see you next week.